evening. Thank you everyone for being here, and thanks to our hosts. Delphi Economic Forum has kicked off, I think, in a splendid way in the past 2 days. As always, they're doing a terrific job, and we should congratulate them. Today, our guest of honor is Ambassador Ernst Reichel. Thank you very much for being here, Mr. Ambassador. Ambassador of Germany to Greece for the past 4 years, right? And we will start right away. You know, see our time over there, it's quite limited. And I will take use of your vast experience in Russian politics. The way I read your resume, I think you're one of the few diplomats that went in your first assignment. You went to a city, what's called Leningrad when you went there, but when you left it was called St. Petersburg. It changed, they had a different name when you started and when you left there, is that right?
Now you are telling a secret that shows how old I am.
And you were in Kiev later on, and in Athens now. But my question is about the war in Ukraine. It's April 28th today. The war has been raging in Ukraine for like 14 months and 4 days. And I don't see if you can see a light at the end of the tunnel in a way that peace and stability and prosperity will return in Ukraine and in Eastern Europe as a whole.
Yes, it's very difficult to see that right now. Mainly because Russia is not giving any credible indication that it is willing to come to terms. From the other side, it is very important that we maintain the principle that it is Ukraine that determines which conditions and what the timing is supposed to be and what the conditions are under which the war could end or come to pause. I mean, this war, it is not only about Russia and Ukraine. It is, of course, very much about the people in Ukraine who are suffering tremendously, some of which I personally know and who are friends because I served in the Ukraine as well. And it's not only about the actual existence of Ukraine as a nation, because that's the stated goal Russia has set out to destroy the existence of this nation. It is also about our morality and our values, and it is about the role international law plays in future worldwide international relations. Because if Russia comes out of this war with something that it can portray as a success, then we have to understand that Russia, but also potential other aggressors, will draw the conclusion that any ruthless violation of fundamental international rules pays off. And if this is the outcome, we will likely not have peace and stability worldwide, but further aggression. Now, so this means Russia must not only lose this war, but it must be forced to recognize that it has lost.
So let's make this clear. Yeah. Will Germany be satisfied with, and the West as a whole, if you can speak for the West as a whole, with anything less than Ukraine restoring its sovereignty in its full capacity as it was on February 23rd, 2022?
Like I said, it is up for the Ukrainians at a given moment to say whether they will be willing to settle for less than this. If I were a Ukrainian, I would fully subscribe to it at this point in time that full restoration of the 1991 borders is the principle and must be upheld, simply because that is the essence of territorial sovereignty and territorial integrity and sovereignty of a state.
So the West is assisting Ukraine in its defense against Russian aggression. Part of this assistance is a German-Greek deal, including tanks. And there has been some kind of also rumor and speculation about expanding this deal in the near future. I want to ask if you're satisfied with the way this deal is implemented, and if there's something more in that coming up.
No, there's no complaints at all. I mean, we're happy with the way this is going. But as you indicate a little bit, the Ukrainian needs since this deal was struck have increased tremendously. And therefore, the further discussion about how we together can help Ukraine in this fight for its existence is a very important one. And I think once elections are over here and the new government has been formed, maybe one can enter into a concrete discussion of what further assistance would also mean for Greece.
So you're open, meaning to a new deal in assisting Greece via Berlin, Athens.
Well, no, I'm not saying that this has to be a triangular deal like the last one was, because given the situation as it has evolved, we in Germany, we have also started giving direct assistance with Western armament. In the beginning, when this deal was made, the principle was that we want to assist quickly, and thereby we are focusing on Soviet-made equipment, which they can use straight away. Yeah. Now we've changed, we needed to change the approach and bring in Western equipment which needs training and so on, but we have done that, so now there's a different ball game, if you like, and there's no need for the complicated trilateral arrangements which we started out with.
Okay, now this war has opened a whole new issue in the European Union. The issue of energy security actually has not opened it, it has brought it in the limelight. Energy security and energy dependence, actually energy less dependence and more of an autonomy. In the last EU summit, the Greek Prime Minister, Kyriakos Mitsotakis, presented a plan to overhaul the EU grid interconnections. We're placing emphasis on in the EU north-south corridors with specific interconnections. What is your view on this plan?
Well, first of all, the race for renewables, not only because of energy dependency, but also because we are trying to become carbon neutral and at a pretty fast pace. This race for renewables offers a lot of opportunities to Greece. That can't be underestimated. One of these, and Greece stands to become an energy exporter, not only because Greece itself can produce renewable energy much more readily than maybe Germany can. Think of solar energy. Germany is not famous for sunshine, but also because Greece again can be the connection to energy that comes from farther south, where the conditions are even better. See, Egypt, for instance. So Greece will be in a situation where it has much more energy at its disposal than it can possibly use itself. So that's what makes this idea attractive. But of course, this idea on the market will have to compete with other ideas to create renewable energy. One of those is, for instance, to create tremendous wind parks in the North Sea, which has the advantage that it is closer by to where the energy is then consumed. There's less loss of energy on the way. So this is a matter, like you said, the Prime Minister brought this up at the last Council. We are at the very early stages of discussing this, but at first glance it does look interesting.
What I see in the Greece proposal is that it has a geopolitical take as well, meaning you said about the North Sea, but the Western Balkans, 6 countries that are in Europe but outside the EU, are closer to Greece, so they can take advantage of this grid if it happens.
Yes, and of course they are also energy consumers. Whether the transportation has to go all the way to Central Europe is an open question to me. We will have to see how the calculations will have to be made.
You also mentioned Egypt in your answer, and there are some interesting developments, not only between Egypt and Greece, in the Eastern Mediterranean as a whole in the past few years. There is an ongoing and growing cooperation between Greece, Cyprus and Israel, and Greece, Cyprus and Egypt, these 4 countries, especially in the energy sector. Can this cooperation play a decisive role in the energy security and energy interdependence that EU is seeking?
Yes, I mean, certainly because, like I said, the conditions to produce renewable energy are extremely good on the southern rim of the Mediterranean. Always considering that, at least the way I see it, given that we're moving so fast to carbon neutral status, the focus of our efforts is not likely to be natural gas, but rather renewable energy. And such big infrastructure projects as are being discussed, they require time to realize, and then they have to be economically viable for a longer period of time to really pay off.
To be economically viable, maybe the EU has to do some funding as well there.
Well, okay, but I mean, we shouldn't be necessarily always look at the EU and at the state, in fact, if there's investment to be made for the energy transition.
So you mentioned Greece's elections May 21, I'm sorry. There are other elections coming up in our neighborhood, in Turkey, May 14. What I'd like to ask is, what is the message that Germany has to convey to whoever the Turkish people elect as their new president on May 14, towards the Turkish stance vis-à-vis two EU member states, Greece and Cyprus?
Well, I'm sure you are aware that at the height of the Turkish threats addressed to Greece, Germany issued clear public statements, and but today we are in a phase Minister Dendias has termed as a honeymoon, and who am I to disturb this honeymoon?
Honeymoons don't last forever, you know?
Yeah, sure, but I think also here we will have to simply wait and see how the elections go, particularly the election in Turkey. But if you want a message from me, my message would be with goodwill and on the basis of international law, I see no issues between Greece and Turkey which can't be resolved by diplomatic means, and this should be the path to follow. And if there's a wish, Germany can, like in the past, also try to be helpful to establish better contact and better talks.
Let's hope for that. I'm sure you have followed the developments in the US Congress regarding the request by Turkey to proceed with the purchase of F-16 fighter jets and all the relevant equipment and to modernize its current fleet. The US Congress has blocked so far this sale, citing reasons not having to do with the sale per se, but with Turkey's stance against Russia, against now one NATO candidate member state, and other issues that don't apply to a normal, let's say, to a serious partner in NATO. Germany doesn't seem to have those issues. You know, you move forward with the sale of submarines without asking any questions and no eyebrows raised in any case. How do you explain that?
That's interesting framing. I mean,
you can reframe it if you want.
The fact being that the US administration is set to deliver the modernization of F-16 planes.
The small one.
Yeah, no,
there's
but
the bigger one waiting.
Secondly, it's not like we haven't thought about this. This has been brought to us by the Greek government. We have considered this. But there is actually one particular difference here, and that is, in the US case, we're talking about the signing of a government-to-government agreement in the year 2023 on planes, while in the German case, the private contract by ThyssenKrupp with Turkey was signed in 2009, that is 14 years ago. And in 2009, I think also Greek government representatives, at least I spoke to, acknowledged that the situation was such that there were no objections. Now, it makes a difference if you are in front of the decision to actually sign a new contract, or if you are asked to scrap a contract that already exists, right?
Well, that's true.
As a lawyer,
95% ready.
I tend to get gray hair when I think about scrapping contracts that already exist, you see.
Okay, we have less than 1 minute, so my final question is this. Alexis Tsipras was in Berlin last week. He raised again the issue of war reparations and placing special emphasis on the issue of the forced loan during World War II. He's not the only leader. I think consecutive Greek leaders, prime ministers, leaders of the opposition have said publicly that this is an issue. It remains open. What is the stance of the German government?
All right, this will take slightly longer than 30 seconds. Okay, I mean, World War II is now 78 years ago, and so it lies several generations in the past. And after the war, if you recall, Germany lost a lot of territory and was stripped of its industrial assets to make up for material damage. The proceeds of that were supposed to be distributed among the victorious states. You know that Germany has fully embraced its moral and political responsibility for the horrors of the war and has reinvented itself as a liberal democratic nation within the European family. As I say, I think that is fully recognized. Now, Germany has a clear legal position of its own, different from the Greek position. Today we as Europeans, we are facing tremendous, important challenges together. We spoke about some of those. And our future lies together in Europe. And of every euro spent by the EU in Greece, 28 cents come from the pocket of German taxpayers. Right? Before Brexit, it was 24% roughly, but now it's 28. So my suggestion is, let's invest in joint solutions for those challenges we spoke about, invest in our partnership and our friendship with a looking towards the future, and thereby offer our children in Europe together a better future, and maybe not focus too much on settling accounts, you see.
Mr. Ambassador, thank you very much for this. I think it was a very fruitful discussion.